So thank you everybody for joining today's coffee break from us here at Team SCOMathon, where today we're talking about management pack authoring, MP authoring, but looking at it from the perspective of a beginner, which is great because that's basically what I am when it comes to MP authoring. Before we kind of dig into anything, just to say if you have any questions that come up throughout today's webinar, feel free to stick them in the Q&A box of GoToWebinar, and of course we're on Slack as well. All the details for Slack are in the joining instructions you got when you registered. So without further ado, let's kick off. So firstly, hello from me. I'm Bruce Cullen. I'm the Director of Products at Cookdown. And with me today I have Dujon Walsham. You are a SCOM consultant from Walsham Solutions. It's great to have you back for another coffee break. Hello.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
No, it's a pleasure. You're one of our you're sort of a resident expert more or less now. You know the deal with coffee breaks and of course with MP authoring, which is great. So what are we going to be talking about today? So I think the first place to start is, well, why bother authoring management packs? There are plenty of management packs you can just simply go and download or buy, so why even bother? That's the first thing we're going to cover off. And then we're going to look at, once we've convinced you there's value in authoring one, what solutions are out there, how they kind of stack up against each other, so you can pick the right tool for the right use case, because you won't need all of these tools all of the time. And then we have some demos for you. I say we, Dion, you wouldn't want to see a demo from me of any of these things. So that would be really, really cool. So without further ado, let's dig into the first point on why author a management pack. The simple answer to this is really, to my mind, the bottom one. You want to add some monitoring to your SCOM deployment, and there's nothing out there that will do the job for you, or what is out there already is too expensive. Often budget is a constraint when it comes to monitoring stuff, and that all of the vendors want you to pay for their solutions. How dare they? So it comes down to authoring something yourself. And another really common one is, well, okay, we can do this, that, and the other with what we get, off the shelf. But then, you might want to add to that off-the-shelf monitoring, adding an extra rule or an extra monitor here or there to add to additional to existing monitoring. And over time, sometimes the requirements you're fed from the teams that are after this monitoring just grow and grow, and it becomes not so simple. There's also the point of, well, if someone else builds a management pack, you don't have the control over what that monitoring does. You don't understand how it works and exactly what it does and the mechanics of it. So those are all the sort of really important factors. But ultimately, in my mind at least, it comes down to, you want something monitoring and you can't find something off the shelf, or don't have the budget to buy something off the shelf. So then what does that mean for you? Well, you need to go and write some management packs. And there are a number of options available to you. So I guess so this is where I'm going to start to rely on you, Dion. I know some of these things, but not all of them. So VSAE obviously is a very common answer when it comes to authoring solutions. What's your take on VSAE?
Yes, so Visual Studios, VSAE, Visual Studio, authoring extensions. Yeah, so it's one of those really known development tools that you would typically go to create a management pack from scratch. Visual Studios is a very heavy based solution to actually build management packs, which is where I think you get a lot of the diversity in terms of people who don't know how to develop management packs at all, as opposed to ones who are very familiar with the actual process of creating management packs. And yeah, you definitely do need to have some kind of know-how of some kind of development to a certain degree, because Visual Studio could be a very overwhelming product to actually build a management pack with, especially when you aren't familiar with the mechanics of how an actual management pack may actually work. So yeah, so we'll definitely be sort of going through some of the finer points on how that actually all comes together, just so you can actually have a familiarity on how you would actually build a management pack using tools such as the VSAE.
So VSE, everything you've just described as it's quite daunting, is essentially me. So the next place I would then go is I'd go and figure out if there was anything that would make my life easier when authoring an MP using VSE, and I'd come across probably Kevin Holman's website and the concept of management pack fragments. So what are those?
So management pack fragments are typically fragment files which take away a lot of the complexity of sort of building something in Visual Studio. So a management pack fragment really has all of the coding and all of the structure already there. So if I wanted to build a certain component of an actual management pack, then that particular fragment already has the whole structure there, all the coding is there, and then all I essentially have to do is really just copy the information out of that fragment or simply import that fragment into a management pack project, and then really can go right ahead from there with minimal changes to some of the sort of maybe display names or IDs to reference with. So the whole idea of a management pack fragment is that it makes it a whole lot easier to sort of get things going with a fragment which we know would actually already be working, and it minimizes the amount of effort to sort of go ahead to sort of develop something from scratch with using something like Visual Studio VSAE.
Sounds good. So something like code snippets and then a game of find and replace. So that would certainly help. But there's still obviously quite a lot of coding involved, unless you can, you'd have to stitch together effectively multiple fragments to get what you want, along with some custom stuff, so you'd get exactly what you want. But there's still a load of coding involved. So then I guess me being me, I would then just go onto Google and type in, MP authoring solutions, and I'd probably find the rest of these bits and pieces. So I guess rather than go through them one by one, I know they're all sort of explained in slides. These are all the vendor solutions, and some of these things are good for very specific purposes. Some are really broad, and that's really the meat of this webinar, along with some demos. So I'm going to skip over those for now, because we'll go into them in a minute. But we'll start with a bit more on VSAEs. This is why I'm going to be leaning on you more and more heavily, Dion.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So yeah, just to give a better overview of Visual Studio VSAE. So it's definitely a development tool which helps you have full control of the management pack development. So you have pretty much full authoritative control of the whole infrastructure on how you want your management pack monitoring to be. So everything from end-to-end development coding using XML code. So there's definitely a know-how of not only just XML code, but then you also need to know the actual structures of certain switches to use in order to apply the correct configuration for how you want your management pack to turn out. But Visual Studio does have a lot of elements and properties to it, which does allow you to customize it to the best of your ability. So it's a great tool to use when you are familiar with the whole management pack creation process. So adding things like management pack references. So if we wanted to build a management pack that referenced other management packs, different types of classes, then we have the ability to do that there. It's also the birthing to where a lot of the management pack fragments come from, especially where templates are concerned. So if you wanted to build, let's say, a class for your management pack, which the class would be the actual name of what we potentially would want to monitor, for example. So these templates in Visual Studio VSAE have sort of a very basic template structure of the coding on how you would build that, with some areas which are commented to actually say this is where you would put certain lines in, this is where you would expand, and sort of along those lines. So they tend to help in terms of where to put correct information in as well. So it makes it not as daunting, but then again, you still sort of have to know some of the normal know-how in terms of Visual Studio, especially when it comes to things like naming conventions and also case sensitivity as well. So those things, so small little things, can add and heighten the actual complexity of building anything through VSAE as well. But we've also got other advanced features, such as the type of modules that we can base a lot of component-based MP stuff on. So if we wanted to create a discovery of some sort, then we've got modules where we can base them off things such as PowerShell, WMI, even going as far as legacy structures like VB scripting, also use of the registry as well, and then also utilizing different kind of methods for those specific data modules. So we might do them on a time basis, or on a scheduled basis, or on a triggered basis. But Visual Studio, it's a very overwhelming tool altogether. But overall, it does have every single thing you need and beyond to develop a management pack, whether that be from a basic level all the way up to a very advanced level, even if you wanted to take it to different areas, such as a Windows platform or a Unix Linux based platform as well.
With ultimate power, essentially, ultimate power. That's good. Also, good to see PowerShell mentioned there. It comes up a few times today. I'm sure a number of you will be very familiar with PowerShell. But for me, this would just be too much. So I'm going to click on in my journey and see what's next that could help me.
Sure.
So fragments are sort of the next piece. We've talked a bit about fragments already. Obviously, they can help essentially speed up your journey. Are there some specific bits of fragments that are worth me knowing before I completely write off VSAE is too complicated, Dion?
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of blogs and articles around which have a lot of typical management pack fragments around. Kevin Holman's blogs, as you mentioned earlier as well, is definitely a great source for a lot of those. Believe there are some around on some of the guides around, like the VSAE authoring guide as well, which does offer some support on that as well. So yeah, the whole idea of management pack fragments is that the whole structure is already there, ready to go. There's definitely a faster turnaround for management pack development, because it's so much, I mean, even as an advanced user, it's so much easier to just get a management pack which is already built and already working, or a fragment that's already working, and then just literally just take the actual structure and then place it into a new management pack, and then just go ahead and configure it that way. It makes life so much easier going through that way. And then really the only bits that would really be left for you, or at least in an ideal world, it would be just replacing things like maybe the names of IDs and display strings. So IDs being the actual the technical terminology and how SCOM would actually refer to certain objects or classes, and then the display strings is the nice user-friendly way that you would actually see something displayed in a SCOM console. So those are the little things that you would have to probably change around. And again, sort of relating to the same thing of the sort of management pack know-how, things like case sensitivity, also knowing where to place certain things as well. So that can be a bit of a task as well, but then it's not as heavy as a task as having to build a management pack from scratch and also having to do this task at the same time as well. So yeah, it definitely makes testing at least in theory a lot easier as well, because with a structure already placed and working, the chance of the management pack or that particular fragment not working could really only be down to maybe some of the stuff that you might put in terms of IDs and the display string ideas. So yeah, there's definitely a reduced amount of areas that you would expect when going to build the actual management pack throughout.
One of the things I really like about fragments, apart from the fact I haven't got to do it all from scratch, is some of the sort of syntax, all the stuff you can get wrong. It would just take me personally ages, even though Visual Studio is quite good with kind of autocomplete, is you've got something there you can copy that you know kind of works. You know, yes, you have to find and replace some things. Yes, you have to add some things. At least you're not scrabbling with what is the correct syntax for this piece of code I'm trying to write. which is really, really quite helpful. And like you say, you know, reduces the error and increases the time. But obviously still requires a good old level of coding ability. So I'm going to click on and see what else is out there that may help me in my journey. Okay, so next up we have Silect's MP Author. So Silect have been around for a really long time, and when you think of sort of additional tools, apart from VSAE, they're the first person speaking, they're the first name that kind of come to mind. MP Author's been around for years, and it does help with, you know, all of what we've just talked about, essentially making MP Authoring easier. How exactly does it help, Dion?
So with all of the complexities that you get with Visual Studios and being such a monstrous tool, the Silect tool is definitely well, a great solution in terms of simplifying that whole process. And I think that's something it has been yearning for a very long time in terms of simplifying the whole management pack process. So the fact that it's quite a wizard-driven solution as well, it just makes the complexity of management pack development so much easier without really having to really create the actual raw XML structure and the coding and all of the different kind of switches as well. So it really refines how the sort of the gap between someone who doesn't have any knowledge on building a management pack as opposed to someone who's more on the advanced level as well. So it definitely bridges the gap between both crowds. So that's definitely a great thing that it achieves there. The sort of base MP creation is great. So sort of setting the foundation for how the management pack would be structured straight away. It works pretty well as well. Also creates and covers all of the vital parts of building a management pack as well. Again, simplifying and structuring all of the sort of main components that you would take to have a management pack as well. It's got a great sort of explorer way of looking at all of the objects in the actual tool as well. So in terms of viewing every single piece that I've got in the management pack that's actually working and configured, it's great for that as well, especially when it comes to creating monitoring and rules, and that's probably the well, most likely the bread and butter of most of anyone's management packs development as well. So sort of the way it uses some of the wizards to give a structure for developing sort of script logic to detail for monitors and rules, definitely has a great way of simplifying the actual process of building a management pack. And I think you'll see that even more when you actually see some of the some sort of demos later on, and the gap that it definitely bridges on that level, and also the way that it targets different objects as well for basing a lot of the monitoring structure as well. So yeah, overall, this is a great tool that definitely bridges a lot of gaps, and it definitely answers a lot of questions in terms of how the actual management pack development can be a lot easier as well. I mean, there is still a certain level of maybe development know-how as well, if you want to definitely push the limits in creating a management pack with this tool as well. But the difference between this and Visual Studio is truly leaps and bounds in terms of its simplicity.
One of the things I really like about MP Author is the whole wizard, basically. If you're just doing something simple, and you don't want to battle with the native SCOM authoring wizard, which is, let's face it, not the best thing in the world. For simple monitoring, you don't really need much in the way of coding skills. And if you do have the coding skills, you can use all the cool stuff that is available to you in VSAE in the form of fragments, and it's a really, really useful tool. But again, if to go beyond the basics, you still need more skill than I have, let's be honest about it, when it comes to MP authoring. Also, there is an element of cost. MP author is not free, at least not if you want the full sort of power of MP author. So there's that issue as well, but it's certainly a contender. It's certainly a really useful tool to know about, and Silect have been refining this for years. It's a really powerful product. It's worth looking at. Sometimes you have a more sort of simple requirement and you don't need everything that is available to you when it comes to MP authoring. Now, bit of in the spirit of full disclosure, I'm obviously from Cookdown, so this is something that Cookdown make, but this is a freebie, so we don't make any money off of this. And this option here is the PowerShell Authoring Management Pack, which is a free download from cookdown.com. And basically, it lets you use PowerShell to author monitoring, which is great because the vast majority of IT pros know PowerShell. So, you know, rather than having to learn XML and all these other languages, you know, PowerShell we all kind of know, which means the process is very familiar. And with the vast majority of more simple authoring, you're just looking at getting in data from an existing system. PowerShell will do the job, basically. The other thing that's great about the PowerShell MP is the native experience factor. There are no additional consoles to have to learn. Everything's built into the native SCOM console. There's a con to that as well if you don't like the native SCOM console, but it is in a console at least you're familiar with. It's completely free. There's no it's not sort of freemium or anything to that effect, and it's open source. So if you want to build some additional capability that I've not thought about, you can just take the source code from GitHub and extend it. But obviously the limitations are it is just PowerShell, so you can't do the vast majority of the more complex types of monitoring you might want to do, or rather, while you might be able to do some of that stuff in PowerShell, you know, some of the more complicated languages are sort of better suited to you. So then moving on, looking at another of the more simple options is good old URL Genie. URL Genie is great because it's really, really simple. Again, there's an element of native SCOM experience here, and everything is controlled by everything that SCOM makes available to you natively, which is really cool. And it's perfect for, as you probably guessed, monitoring URLs. You can import a list of URLs from a text file, and then using all the stuff that SCOM makes available to you natively, you can set up rules and monitors, or use rules and monitors as part of the solution. And it will test all the common sorts of issues you might expect to see when accessing URLs. And obviously with SCOM's agent network, you can test those URLs from wherever you have SCOM agents. So from, you know, DNS, can you actually connect to the website, to other certificate issues, to response times where, yes, it connects, but the experience is unacceptable. URL Genie is great. Obviously, URL Genie is limited to URLs. So, you know, it's a worthy thing to mention, but it's certainly not going to take away your need for authoring custom MPs. But it is free. It was developed by a guy from the SCOM community who works at Microsoft. So essentially, you know, great for this kind of solution. Now I'm going to hand back to you because you're clearly going to know about this one than me because it's from you.
Yes, okay, so the SCOM Management Pack Creator module. So this was a solution that was made again to sort of bridge the gap between the complexity of developing management packs, but then it also incorporates some of a lot of the benefits that you get from actually creating a management pack fragment. And in terms of sort of where a lot of people might not know how to build a management pack, I think a lot of points where a lot of people like to meet in the middle, just the points that you was making is around the PowerShell side. And I think a lot of people seem to be a lot more familiar with and more comfortable with sort of utilizing a lot of anything with PowerShell, especially when it comes to creating monitors or expanding any kind of features in SCOM as well. So that sort of flourished into a whole entire module, which basically allows you to build an entire management pack just from PowerShell. So we've got functions that are very clear in terms of what they actually do and how they build certain management packs. So you've got functions on how to build a new class, a new discovery, new monitor, new rule, you name it. Every single part of a management pack is pretty much covered in here. So you basically run the function, you detail the name that you want to give it, and then if we think about some of the know-how and the prereqs it comes to for Visual Studios, when you have to come up with a name of an ID and then the sort of display string that would go with that ID, this module would actually cover both of those cases. So all you've got to do is only put in one thing, and that's the name that you want to give something, and then all of the prereqs, all of the case sensitivity, and all of those little bits which can sort of make or break a management pack in Visual Studio, those are all covered in this module here. And so if you think about when we create anything with management pack fragments, one of the little tasks is to replace things like IDs and display strings and those kind of things. So in this case, we don't have to do none of that. All of this is all covered, so you don't have to search or replace or do anything like that. Soon as the function is run, the management pack fragment is already created, done, ready to go. The Intellisense abilities are definitely enhanced as well, which we can also cover in a demo as well. And so this covers things like classes or any kind of object that you might have created in a fragment before, and it's able to sort of read a fragment and then pick up all of the IDs, so that if we want to sort of create or add specifically to that particular object, then we can easily relay that all together just using sort of pipeline structures with other PowerShell functions as well. So it definitely bridges a lot of gaps between the complexity, the speed, and the understanding, and also just meeting in the middle as well, in terms of familiarity, which everyone can relate to being PowerShell.
Indeed. One thing also to say on this is that we did a coffee break on this, maybe February, March time now, off the top of my head. We'll make sure we get a link out to it. So there's if you're interested, there's a deep dive. The other thing to say is it's free, which is really, really important when you're looking at what's available to you. And of course, good old PowerShell for the win, a very important piece of the answer. Cool. So far we've seen things that help. We haven't seen anything that's code free entirely yet. Let's have a look and see what other options we have. This is one I'll have to ask you to explain, Dion. So I'm super not familiar with it.
Sure. So yeah, this one is very, very new. So this is the Protect Org Impact Creator. So when we think about the SCOM Management Pack Creator PS module, this tool sort of goes really leaps and bounds above that particular module and gives that module sort of a face, a user interface, and it really addresses the true simplicity on how to develop a management pack from scratch. And it is very simplified to the point that someone who has no knowledge on building a management pack can go through the whole process very seamlessly, and they would also have an understanding on sort of how a management pack works and all of the structure as well. So it really answers a lot of the points for the Visual Studio's process, the benefits of a management pack fragment, the quickness of a PowerShell module, and then also just bridging that gap even further to the point where it's literally just someone who builds a management pack. There's no beginner, there's no intermediate, there's no advanced level. Because I think when we think of management packs, I think it's great that advanced users are around, and it does great benefits for people who know how to build a management pack, who know how about a lot of coding anyway. But when it comes to the beginner side of things, I think that's the part that really needs to be addressed there, because when it comes to really the understanding the structure of building a management pack, the better it is for them, I think the better it is for everyone all around. So it definitely just creates one pool of people rather than separate areas. So the management pack development is also very fast, it's very sleek as well. And in terms of the base management pack, so I normally define this by certain attributes that you would expect to sort of have running in the management pack straight away. So things like the name, let's say like the description, sort of the version of SCOM you want it to be applicable to, whether management pack will be sealed or not be sealed, the platform they would apply to. So this has the ability to really structure that right from the jump, to the point that you'd have a management pack that would be pretty much ready to go to be imported right away if you wanted it like that. Grant you, it might not necessarily provide any benefit until we add more stuff to it, but the point is that it would be at a ready to go point right away. The Intellisense optimization on this is definitely expanded on a lot more than how the PowerShell module was before. So in terms of targeting and referencing different objects and IDs around in the management pack that you've developed, it's very great in terms of the targeting and referencing points of a lot of the areas in the management pack as well. So yeah, this overall solution is definitely something that takes the benefit of every single thing that we've seen in the previous slides and then developing it into one big solution. So yeah, that's the plan of the Impact Creator.
Very cool. So I'm hearing PowerShell, I'm hearing UI, and I'm hearing easy. So those are three things that I like. This one is entirely new to me, but also just to say, Dion, you're involved with Protect.org, just again in the spirit of full disclosure. But this is new to me, so I'm very interested in seeing what it looks like. So I guess now is a perfect place to start talking about demos.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is go through sort of 3 series of demos. So we're going to really show the evolution of how the actual management pack process goes. So we'll go from the actual management pack fragments, then we can see how long it sort of takes and the structure and the process of creating a management pack using the fragments. Then we'll go ahead and then show the sort of the benefits of how the PowerShell module, the SCOM management pack creator as well, and then sort of we can see the differences between the fragment way and then the module way in terms of sort of a change in the level of simplicity. And then we'll go from that and go right into the impact creator, then where we can tie up all of the benefits of everything into one solution overall to top off the full evolution of the whole management pack authoring process.
Sounds good to me. So I guess now is a good point to make you presenter, and we'll just dig into the demos really. So let me just give you the power, and then when you share your screen, we'll dig into fragments, which would be really cool to see.
Okay, so I guess the very first and most important question is, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, right. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go to the first one, which is creating a management pack fragment. So I've got this management pack here. Let's move this. So yeah, this here is just a management pack based on PowerShell. It's pretty simple overall. You know, it's got things like a class for discovering things like PowerShell. It's got the properties for different kind of attributes to capture as well. We've got a discovery based here as well, folder structure, view structure, and then also a PowerShell script as well that goes along with the discovery. So this is really going to be the basis of our management pack fragment. So if I go to here and I do a create a new project, let's wait for that to load. So choose a 2019 management pack. So I'll just call this, let's see, PowerShell Management Pack 8. Yeah, just call that 8 for now. So yeah, this is the first process on how you create an actual management pack project from Visual Studio VSAE as well. So you need the VSAE tool to even see this particular template that we're looking at here as well. So we'll go ahead and then create that. Just take about a few seconds. Then we should start to see the layout of an empty management pack fragment. Yep. And here we are. So yeah, this is really a blank management pack project, nothing in there, and then we're going to use the management pack fragments to go ahead and customize this overall. So first thing we want to do in terms of the actual base of the management pack is we want to go through the actual sort of the naming structure of the management pack. So we want to make things a little bit easier and a little bit friendly. So this is just a practice that I normally use because I normally can't stand underscores in any part of the naming, but that's just my personal preference anyway. So yeah, this is the naming of the management pack ID and then the friendly name as well. Clicking this particular hyperlink here takes us to where it will create a fragment based on the management pack naming. So again, I'm going to do the same thing, just to replace the underscores with some dots. I'll just take those underscores out as well. Right. Okay, so that's the first part. And then the next part is, so I want to seal this management pack. So I don't want it unsealed. I want to actually have everything sealed. So I'll go ahead, okay, build, and go to generate sealed. So in this case, company name, I'll just call it Solutions Limited.
So while you're typing, given that this webinar is all about sort of getting going, I'm in my right to ask all the stupid questions that I want to ask. So
Absolutely.
what's the difference between a sealed and an unsealed management pack?
Well, a sealed management pack just, well, if you look in actual SCOM console, there's normally a folder with sort of like a yellow lock on there, and it basically means that the management pack is actually locked from any kind of editing and any editing and any changes to it as well. So it's also a great way in terms of referencing that management pack as well, because with an unsealed management pack, it's normally in an XML format. You could edit it as much as you want, but then you will have issues if you try and reference unsealed management pack with another unsealed management pack. So if you really want to have an MP which can be used as a reference base, and where sort of changes can be locked, and you can have actually full authoritative control of your management pack, then ideally you would want to actually have that sealed.
Makes a lot of sense. Perfect. Yeah. Just to say to anyone listening, if you have any similar questions, feel free to put them in the chat or in Slack, and I'll pick them off the list as they come in.
So yeah, so the first thing we want to do now is we want to grab a key file, which is what we'll use to actually lock the actual management pack. So they all require a key file. So another part of the actual process is, if you wanted to create a key, then you have to use the Visual Studio's developer tools. So I'll just give just a quick demonstration. So it's a command line called sn.exe. So I'd run something like sn.exe, okay, c temp, and I'll just say demo.snk, and then that would be how you'd create an actual key pairing for any management pack that you wanted to seal. So let me go right here. I'll just choose SCOM SMP one. So that would be sealed once we do the building. Deployment, so we've got the versioning here, so it's auto incrementing, so which means anytime we build the actual management pack, it will go up a version in terms of actually changing its actual version number. So now we're going to go into how we create the actual the fragment side of things. So there's two ways. You could just copy it into the project and then just import it, but I suppose the easiest way is to sort of just copy it and then sort of show the structure of it overall. So if we go to add new item, we are going to have a empty MP fragment. I'll just call that MP class, for example. Right, so that's the empty fragment here. So now I'm going to go into my MP fragment. I'm literally just going to copy everything here and paste everything here, and then this is pretty much the class structure already out the way. So I've got a class called PowerShell Agent. I've got a few properties here. I've got a class for a computer group and an instance group. So once we start discovering stuff, computers with that class will be added into that group, and instances of that particular class will be added into the instance group. We've already got a secure reference, which in translation in the user-friendly world of SCOM, it is the run as profile that we would use. So that's the class structure already there, ready to go. So then the next part would be to create a discovery to actually discover this particular class that we've already got the fragment for. So again, we just use another empty fragment, and we'll call this MP Discovery again. So I'll go into the other management pack and copy the structure here. And then this is then the discovery side. So this discovery is based on a PowerShell script that runs. So I'm just going to change that to 30 seconds, just so that we can actually see something quick once we actually do report this. Of course, I wouldn't recommend that you have a discovery running every 30 seconds, but in this case, not that big of an issue at the moment. So
yeah, a test is one thing, in production, not so much.
yeah, pretty much. So the next part is now we're going to create the PowerShell script, which is referenced in this particular fragment. So in this case, it's test.ps1. So we're going to go to add and then go to item, and then we're going to choose a PowerShell script file. So another great part about Visual Studio visual authoring tools is that it's already got a structure on how to sort of read and understand sort of the PowerShell coding as well. So once you see this, you've already got the very particular colorings to sort of show and outline everything. So this PowerShell script is quite basic. It references a registry path and then basically grabs all of the attributes and then builds an actual class instance. Yeah, so that one should actually reference fine with the discovery as well. We've got one for computer group discovery, instance group discovery, vice versa. So now that we've got this here, one thing that two things that we're missing actually. One is the actual folders. So if we import this right now, we'll actually have no folder actually showing in SCOM. So having this management pack at this point would be kind of pointless. So we're going to go and create another one for the other piece of the fragment, which is then the folder structure. So I'm going to go to the folder here, copy this section, this bit here. So we've got two folders. One is the actual parent folder. So this is the folder that you would see in the monitoring tab or the SCOM console. It would be the very first management pack that you actually see. And as you see here, this was actually renamed as 6 because the last management pack was called PowerShell Management Pack 6. So going to the point of fragments where we have to change some of the IDs, in this case, I want it to reflect the name of the management pack. So I'm just going to change this to 8. So, and then the same thing, we've got another reference here. So we're going to change that to 8 as well. And that particular folder here is going to be part of this folder here. So this folder is going to be on the SCOM console. This particular folder is going to be nested in the parent folder. And then again, we've got the same thing here. So we've replaced that, put that with an 8.
I'm guessing that things like that, replacing all of the variables is a common place where stuff can go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the fragments can take away some of that pain. So, and then the next part, well, final part of this is then the management pack views. The views is another thing. So without an actual view, the folders won't even show as well without any views at all. So we're going to create the last bit, which is a management pack view, and this is going to contain a view created to show the class of the PowerShell agent, which we've actually just done the actual fragment for. So I'm going to copy this. This is going to be the last part. We're going to copy this here. So that's all that structure done. And then again, we've got a bit more replacing to do because this particular view is going to go into PowerShell Management Pack 6, but we really have renamed it to PowerShell Management Pack 8. So if we didn't actually change this, then building it would actually cause an error. So that particular bit completes the whole management pack process. However, there is one more piece. And if we go into discovery, see, we have a discovery based on an instance group discovery. And its base is a reference to another management pack, which is the Microsoft System Center instance group. And without this, it would actually cause an error in trying to actually build this management pack. So then this is another area in which it makes the process a little bit more in terms of building a management pack. So we have to actually add references if we want to actually correct the whole management pack process as well. So if I go to recent items, got the Microsoft System Center instance group here. But if we go to browse, for example, we'll just have a little ground. So when you have the VSAE tools, it should create a folder called the System Center Visual Studio authoring extensions. There's a folder called references. This management pack was based on 2019, so we'll use that. And then we've got the instance group library here. So once we add this in, then this increases the amount of references that we've got in the management pack. And then at this point, we should be ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and build that solution off right here. Hopefully that provides no kind of issues, I'm hoping, and it does. That's successful.
Classic. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and especially good for a demo that we're doing right now as well. So we're going to the Powershell Management Pack project folder here. So we're going to go into the debug folder, which we've got the actual management pack ready here. So we're going to copy that, and then we're going to go into my test SCOM instance. I'll just paste that on the desktop. And then now we are going to import this in. So then we're going to install that.
Just while that's importing, so the fragments that you've used, are they available for anyone to just go and find?
This one I actually can make available for. It's normally a management pack fragment reference point, which I normally use to sort of build any kind of management pack, for example. But yeah, this is it definitely can be something that can be shared around to the community as well. It's a great management pack that has the structure already ready, so it works quite well in that sense. So it could definitely be something I can make available going forward. Just gonna wait a few seconds for that to go through.
So is that the downside of a live demo, the waiting piece?
Yes. So well, whilst that's actually going along, so I suppose the next part of the demo would be to show the management pack creator, the PowerShell module. So got that over here. So this is a view of the actual PowerShell module. So it's a very detailed PowerShell module, quite a lot of functions in there as well. So then we've also got a template here which covers all of the lines and switches on how I want to build the management pack as well. So this also sort of takes a leap out of the management pack fragments book as well and makes things a lot easier there too. So what I'm going to do beforehand is just go ahead and import that module. So let's see, p creator, verbose switch, and yeah, that should import everything here. So then this particular form is then ready to go. That's taking a little bit too long. Right. Okay.
One of those we just hope the demo gods are looking kindly on you.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was the only thing that I did not quite expect, but at the same time, you should expect anything.
Oh, it wouldn't be a live demo without the unexpected.
Oh yeah. So the next part is, so with that being done, so now we're going to create a new management pack project here, and so this is going to be the base of how we're going to use the SCOM management pack creator. So just go click this over here. So we're going to do the PowerShell sort of management pack thing again, but this time we will give it a number 9, for example. And then we'll go ahead, create that. Yeah, let's save that. Let's see how that's getting on. Right, so that's that particular outer shell ready there. So we're going to do is go through again the same process in terms of the actual naming of the management pack. So just going to go ahead and just remove these parts. Yeah, it's fine. So these are some of the sort of prereqs that would have to do anyway regardless, but the PowerShell module will actually make the structure of this a whole lot easier. So this away. And then we will go ahead and seal off the management pack once again. So just convert solutions to save that there. And then we'll choose another one. I'll just select sealed key, for example. Versioning is already on auto increment, so keep that as it is. So yeah, now we've got the base ready for PowerShell management pack, but then we still have to add one more thing, which again is the instance group library here, because we are going to be having another instance group added into this fragment as well. So now switching over to the SCOM management pack creator form, this also comes along with the actual PowerShell module itself as well. So this gives a good idea of the structure of how we're going to create everything. So these particular elements, they all relate to the actual management pack project which we just created, which is PowerShell management pack 9. So these create all of the sort of variables that we're going to be referencing with. And so once we run this, when we run all of the functions below, that's then going to give us a lot of easier time in terms of creating this management pack project. So we run this, those variables are now set. So the first section here, so we've got the management pack class, for example. So if I go to my reference one here, so this particular class, we see this is the actual fragment here. So these 4 lines is going to create that structure exactly the same as that particular one that you've just seen in Visual Studios. So if I highlight this and run that, that bit is done. So we've got a comment here which says that if you're adding an instance group, then you need to add the instance group management pack, which we actually did before. So this module also gives in sort of little tips of anything that you actually need to do before going ahead further in the actual management pack creation. So it does save some time in that element as well. So that's that particular bit done. Now the next bit we want to do is then add the properties to that particular class, which is this section here, which is the attributes which make up the overall class. So there's 2 bits to be mindful of. So this is the first part, which actually adds a property, and then this part here is where the Intellisense part of the module kicks in. So if I just copy this, and I'm going to remove this particular area off. So if I copy the location here, for example, and then I hit a switch to reference a source for which I actually want to base the property from. If I hit space, then it comes up with all of the objects referenced in that particular fragment. So this will work with a lot of fragments as well. It will pick up everything on here. It will read the ID. So if I hit PowerShell agent, then it knows exactly which particular class it's going to add that particular property to. So that's going to have everything configured here. So I'll run this section, and then the properties are done.
That's really good. Good way of saving a bit of time and getting things wrong.
Yep, absolutely. And then the next section is going to be the discovery. So this is going to create the discovery. This is going to create the actual PowerShell script template for the discovery. And the great thing about this module is that it actually has the structure of how the PowerShell script would actually work if you are using it for discovering anything as well. So it makes life a lot easier on that side too. We've also got switches to add a knowledge-based article as well. So that also covers that side too. So we've also got the group discovery, instance group discovery. So essentially we could just highlight this whole section, and then we could run this as well. That will be done. Again, it gives some comments in terms of helping when it comes to the management pack process. So letting you know about the PowerShell script portion, instance group references, and also it adds as well the properties as well of the class which we just added. So it also helps in the Intellisense in that side too. Then we've got another section here which creates the folder structure, exact same folder structure in the last management pack fragment. So we highlight that, run that as well. That's done. And then the last part is the views, the same views we got in the last management pack reference. Highlight that, run that as well, and then that particular bit is done. So if I go back to the management pack side here, to 9, and we can see all of those particular fragments are all there and they're all ready to go. So all I have to do is just right click the actual project, let's add an existing item. Everything is all there, so we just add all of those.
Nice.
And then they are all there, exactly the same structure, nothing different at all. We've got to go ahead and add the PowerShell script as well. So we add that too. It's got the structure here, so we can see here not only has it actually created the actual template structure of the PowerShell script, but then it's also got all of the properties which we just added as well. So it knows all of the properties and the class that we're referencing as well. So this also makes life a whole lot easier when it comes to developing a structure for how you want it to actually discover an instance in creating a management pack. So as we've already got the code already for this here, I'll just copy this across and then just save over that. That should be everything. So if we go ahead and kick off building that solution, that should then complete with no errors. That's good. Let's get that going. I think this might have actually froze, but not to worry. I'll just have to give those a quick reboot.
While you're doing that, just to draw your attention to the time, we are going to be shortly running out of time, so we may have to slightly overrun, so apologies if we do that in advance.
Yes, definitely. Right. I'll just keep that this there. There as well. So that concludes the module side. So then now the final part of this demo is then the actual protect or manage impact creator. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this. Here we go. Right, so then this is then the actual solution and product, which is going to take all of the benefits from the management pack fragment and also the PowerShell module as well. So in order to kick off creating a new management pack, so the first thing we do is click the create management pack. So this particular form is one of the first bits which does the whole simplifying of everything which we've seen. So this form alone will not only just create the actual management pack, but it'll also create all of the structure as well. It will also, like say, seal the management pack as well. We can control the versioning as well. We can set the authoring as well. So we'll just quickly go through this form. So we'll just call this PowerShell management pack. The management pack platform, so we can actually select which one we want it to be specifically for. So in this case, we'll go with Windows. If you did choose Unix, then it would configure the management pack project to be specifically for Linux and Unix as well. So description, I'll just say management pack for PowerShell, current SCOM version. So in this case, we're going for 2019. So the management pack sealing, yeah, we're going to click yes. So if you remember in the Visual Studio side, I actually had to highlight the project, go to properties, create a new key, browse for it, and then go for the sealing that way. In this case, that has all been simplified in just clicking yes, or simply clicking no. But then further on, we can actually change that to sealed or unsealed either way. Same thing with the auto version control. We can click yes to keep that going. If we click no, then we would have the ability to change what version we wanted to lock the management pack down to. Off of the management pack, I will just put myself down as me for the time being. Right, so once I'm happy with that, I'll click build, I'm sure, click yes. and then that will then go away for a few seconds and try to build that particular project.
So far, much simpler, much yeah, much less involved, basically.
Yeah. Definitely the key for that part was to set the structure off straight away as well. And then once that actually comes up with a success message, then you should be in a position to go through everything it's actually created after that point. Right, so that's created. So at this particular point, we've not only just created the actual management pack structure, but now we've actually got the management pack is sealed, the version is controlled, and we've also got the folder structure already created straight away. So the parent folder is already done. So in the fragment side, I had to create a separate fragment, copy everything over to get the folder done. This is already done everything straight away. So we'll go ahead and I click continue. And then we've got the management pack summary. And the idea of this particular window is to sort of give an idea of the overall settings on the actual management pack. So we've got the name, we've got the version here. We have the ability to change the version whenever we want to. The management pack is showing as sealed. We can actually change whether the actual management pack is sealed or not. We can do that anytime here. We've got the stats showing all of the objects count of everything in the management pack, and then we've got the parent folder here. We've got the default 5 reference management packs, which you would see right here, for example, in the exclusion of the instance group library management pack. So we're going to go here, and now we're going to go and create the classes. So this window here allows you to create classes, properties, and run as profiles as well. So we click proceed. This preps the management pack to allow classes to be added to it. So we're going to call this one the same thing we've been calling it before, which is Powershell Agent. Say class for PS Agent. Class type, we're going to go for Windows Computer. The structure is hosted, because we're using the Windows Computer class. Accessibility, just call it internal for now. And then we click add. It will ask us if we want to add that particular class. We click yes. But then we've also got another feature which asks us if we want to create a computer and instance group. So what it will do is not only will it create a class for the computer group and instance group for it, but it will also create the discovery for both of them as well. So if we go into the fragment one, for example, we had to copy the structure for the group, both groups, and we also had to do one for the discovery as well. This will actually do both of them straight away. So once I click yes, that's everything done straight away, which also then saves a lot of time in terms of creating more stuff like that going on as well. So anytime we create a class, computer group, or instance group can be done straight away.
Very nice. Good way again of saving time. The class types there, are they where is that list coming from? Yeah.
So this is actually a predefined list of sort of default bases, which will sort of base a class from. So they are quite static in terms of the list, but this list can actually increase. If you was to create, for example, an abstract class, then this class type would actually increase. So then if you created a custom abstract class, then you can reference another class on that one as well. So
nice.
it would increase as well. But yeah, it definitely accounts for the beginner side and also the advanced side if you want to create abstract classes going forward too. So next we're going to add the properties. So first one we'll add is something like the PowerShell version, for example. And here we're just using friendly names. We don't have to use no dots in between and nothing like that. This handles everything like that already. Class target, we get to choose the PowerShell agent which we just created. We get a notification to say that there's no key values already been, that's not been set already. So once we create a key value, you won't see that notification again, but it's a good warning message to let you know that nothing is there at the moment. This probably starts going to be a string. It will be a key value. We add that in, and that's been created. So we're just going to create a couple more just to replicate the same management pack we've been creating. False. Then we've got another one, application base. Do that as well. And then last one, compatible version. And I believe the SCOM VM has come back up and is working now. So this will be a good time once we actually build this. Right, and that's done. And then the next part, we will add the runners account, very similar to the management pack fragment. So I'll just call this PowerShell agent runners account. I'll just say run as accounts. If I spelled that wrong. PowerShell MP. We add that in, and then that particular bit is done. So if you actually wanted to see all of the parts of the management pack that you've actually built, then you've got this section here, which you can actually browse through. So if I selected the PowerShell agent, for example, it will then pre-configure that whole section. So you actually see everything that's been created, and you see all of the settings that's been changed as well. We have the ability to sort of edit that and also delete those particular parts as well. So that's a good way of sort of seeing everything that's actually been made in the management pack as well in terms of referencing. So once we close that window, then we will see the stats increase as well. So we've got 3 classes, we've got 2 discoveries, the references has gone up as well, because once we actually added the instance group, it automatically adds the reference management pack for that as well. So we don't have to worry about adding anything in particular for that as well. So that's also another bit that saves a lot of time. And then the next part is we're going to do the discoveries side of things. So we're going to add the PowerShell discovery, similar to the last management pack. So we're going to call this PowerShell Discovery. We'll just keep it basic. Let's say discovery for PowerShell agent class, class target. Again, so going by the reference, it references the class which we already created, the PowerShell agent. Runners account, we click the runners account there. Discovery target, again, we have that as Windows Computer. Discovery method, we're going to use PowerShell. So that allows us to have this section here. The script name, so this also has been simplified. So just put in the discovery name, so we don't have to put .ps1 or anything like that. That's already covered. Interval seconds, we're going to run this at 30 seconds. Again, this is only just a demo. So timeout seconds, we'll set that at 300. And then here's the other part, is then we have to actually create the actual PowerShell script. So once we click this, this will bring up another window. But in this case, what we've got here is not only is the structure created again for the PowerShell script, but we've also got every single property which we just created, it will automatically pick that up. So you won't actually have to develop the whole PowerShell logic from scratch. It's already there. So all of the properties are there already. If you was to add more properties and open this up again, it would automatically update and prompt you to change this up all over again. So it's very good in terms of the Intellisense and picking up all the properties that's actually already there. So as we've already got the script here, I'm just going to copy this particular section here. Then I'll copy this piece too. And so I'm just going to quickly configure this part so that we discover this correctly. And so once this piece is done, then that will be the whole PowerShell discovery then already created at this particular point. But this definitely saves a lot of time in terms of not having to actually add every single particular property that you wanted to reference. So everything is fully automated on that side. That's all version. Hopefully that is all spelled okay. Yep, that's fine. So we create the PowerShell script, and then that's created. We've also got the ability to add a knowledge base article. So we just add one here. I'll just say this is a test article, or just keep it brief. And then that bit is also created. And once that's finished, then we've got the add discovery side. We'll go ahead and add the discovery. So then that's the PowerShell bit side already done. We'll close this, and then we've got the discoveries, which is increased. So the only two parts that we've got left is the folder side. So the parent folder thing is already done. So we see here the parent folder, we've got the root, which is any folder that you'd see on a monitoring tab in a SCOM console would automatically be on this side. We've got the PowerShell Management Pack folder, which is the parent folder for this that we already created on the Create Management Pack form. So we're just going to do PowerShell agents just to replicate the same structure. We're going to use this as the parent folder. Add this, and then that particular one is done. Close that, and then the stats also go up for that too. And then the final part is we're going to go into views, and then we're going to create the actual view to see the actual PowerShell agent class there as well. So we go to views. Name, I'll just call it PowerShell state view for PS agent. Class target, again, we choose the same thing for PowerShell agent. Folder parent, we're going to choose the folder which we just created, which is the PowerShell agents folder. View type, we're going to choose the state view. So here we've also got the ability to add different severities and whether we want to include anything that's got maintenance mode in it or not. But since we're going to keep it very open, we're just going to add it exactly as it is. We'll click that, and then that's the view structure created. Once we close that, now that's the whole management pack actually created and done. So once we're ready with that, just going to click Finish Build. Just wait for that to run.
Very nice. While we're waiting, how do people get their hands on this? Is this free? How much does it cost? You know, where do people go? I know we have slides to this effect later.
So at the moment, so we've got a link we can share where you can file for the registration of interest for the product. Unfortunately, it is not free, but it will be actually released soon. So there is a link where you can actually register for it and see more information on the actual tool, which will definitely come out soon.
Perfect.
So yeah, this is created, and I'm actually very thankful that didn't error, because so yeah, this is the actual location where it's installed. So we've got the log files, so you can see the log files where it builds, where it creates a management pack. We've also got the management pack structure. Again, we've got the PowerShell management pack, which we just created. So we're going to go right into here. See the same kind of structure as you see in Visual Studio. We've got the management pack here, so I'm going to copy that, and now we're going to import this into SCOM. Yep, place. Okay. Imports. And then PowerShell management pack. That's the one I just made. So we're going to install that. Just wait for a few seconds. Okay, that's actually very convenient that it waited until the MPack creator to actually import it successfully. I did not plan that.
Always good.
Yeah, definitely. So just wait for that to show its face. Will take a few seconds for it to actually come through.
Anyone that's worked with SCOM before will know there's always a wait involved.
Oh yes, indeed. If I just go back into another tab and then go back in again. Okay, there we go. There we go. Also a tiny bit nervous there, but it's here.
Had you worried?
So yeah, we've got the PowerShell Manager Pack here. We've got the PowerShell Agents folder, which we just created. Then we've got the PowerShell States View. Right, so we should start to see something materialize at some point. We did set it on for 30 seconds, so definitely expecting something at some point.
And this is where we have our fingers crossed for
Oh yeah,
more
yeah.
demo success.
Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. So yeah, we've got the first particular instance here. The display name is currently the PowerShell version because I made that the actual key property there. But yeah, that's pretty much the process on creating a management pack with the MPack creator and importing it in. Worked straight away, which is
Very
great.
nice, very nice. Discovery is always the ones that sort of I sort of struggle with the most, because for some of the other solutions, like adding rules and monitors, there are other solutions that take some of the pain away. But for discoveries, up to seeing this, I haven't found one, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. So so those demos sort of show the sort of the entire process on how you would create a management pack in sort of those three different methods, really. So you can see sort of the process it takes in terms of sort of creating a management pack fragment from Visual Studios, whether you use this method or you use the PowerShell module method, which does reduce time in between the bits, but then I think it's great when you've got a user interface that sort of covers everything and sort of the simplistic look of everything as well. So as soon as you sort of create something, pretty much add it in, work straight away, and then you can sort of change the management pack however you want it to as well. So we've got sections for things like monitors, rules, as well as relationships as well, if you want to create relationships between two different classes. And then you've also got tasks, so we cover things like the the diagnostic recoveries, agent tasks. So yeah, it's a very, very fast tool, but it does help in terms of bridging the gap of a lot of things as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the overall solution there.
Amazing. Thank you very much. So ultimately, if I take back screen now, we've got a few slides to finish. Ultimately, it comes down to picking the right tool for the right job and for your skill set and knowledge. It's not everyone is going to be able to just dig into VSAE, into Visual Studio, and to be successful. And some people don't need all that stuff if they're just looking for simple URL monitoring. So before we kind of hand off, I have a few final slides. So hopefully you can see my screen. We have links to everything that we have demos today, in no particular order. The order I dug them off of Google. So we'll make these links available after the webinar. A few final words on the MPack Creator from yourself there, Dion. As you said earlier, it's available to download soon from protectorg.com/MPack Creator. And you have an offer as well, I understand.
So the plan is here is to sort of go more deeper into the features, into another webinar that will sort of explore the actual solution overall, so we can get more better understanding on sort of everything that the MPack Creator covers, really. So yeah, it's definitely a bit more of a advanced and deeper look as well, to sort of capture the audience of, again, sort of the beginner type people who are interested in developing management packs, as well as sort of making the process easier for advanced users as well. So again, working more sort of bridging the gap to there's only sort of just one group of people, which is people that create management packs.
Yeah, makes total sense. And ultimately, a deep dive webinar will be super useful to somebody that's looking at going beyond the basics. So sounds good. The one thing that we haven't covered off is who exactly Protectorg are. So that's one you can cover before we go into the end of the webinar.
Yeah, sure. So the main goal of Protect.org is really to sort of have sort of the monitoring spectrum covered sort of all round. MPAC is definitely one product in the portfolio to sort of do that as well. But then we've also got the actual monitoring and security side as well, which we've got the sort of multi-tenant portal, which can sort of monitor everything to sort of make the whole structure of monitoring a whole lot easier as well. It's also a very advanced and vast tool set where you can actually have sort of a more simplified look into the monitoring of your infrastructure as well. Again, sort of that sort of single pane of glass look overall, to sort of see the actual overall health state. So sort of the translation of sort of the complicated side of how you would see, I guess, something like a SCOM console, for example, and then sort of translating in a more user-friendly, easier way of understanding the overall health state of your infrastructure, which I think is definitely the more important thing, because when you think about sort of different levels of like maybe stakeholders or people who aren't so technical, I think you just want to see something that sort of makes sense right away, rather than sort of having like maybe a more difficult time with a translation and the technical terms to sort of business sense. And I think the impact tool sort of covers that in a management pack process perspective, whilst Protect or monitoring side sort of covers that on an overall enterprise monitoring and security perspective. So that's pretty much the goal.
Sounds good. Cool. Well, if you're interested, go and check out Protect.org at protectorg.com. And of course, register your interest in Impact Creator. We have just a few things to cover now. So a few words from our sponsors, one of whom is me, Cookdown, effectively. That's who I work for. So we do code-free integrations for SCOM to integrate SCOM with a number of places, from messaging platforms like Teams and Slack through to ITSM tools like ServiceNow and Sharewell, but ultimately with anywhere you like with the power of webhooks. We also have an alert tuning solution called EasyTune, which isn't on this side, which is all about making the process of tuning SCOMs overrides super simple. You can tune a whole management pack in a couple of clicks. Go and check it out at cookdown.com. And the other sponsor of SCOMathon is SquaredUp, who are the not-so-secret source for SCOM success. Think dashboards and think SCOM, and you'll be thinking SquaredUp. You mentioned earlier that single pane of glass. Well, SquaredUp had that single pane of glass view to SCOM initially, and now to other products as well, pulling in data from places like PagerDuty and Zendesk, among others. Go and check them out. Here are some quotes from some customers. So all that's left to do now is to say thank you. Thank you, Dujon, for being willing to, give up your time today and show us some really cool solutions for those interested in getting started with management pack creation. So thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who is listening to or watching this webinar right now. Thank you for your time. Hopefully this has been useful. These coffee break webinars are monthly. So if you're interested in more cool and free SCOM content like this, go to scomathon.com and you can register there. And we'll be soon publishing details of the next conference in the SCOMathon conference series, which will be towards the end of the year, which is worth registering for alone. So before we end this webinar, we'll just give it a few minutes in case there are any questions that people have that they haven't asked so far. Let me just check and see if there's any in Slack as well. Can we see the webinar back afterwards? Is the first question. Yes, you can. Everything is always recorded and will be made available via scomathon.com. Let's just see if there are any other questions. What would the URL be? Scomathon.com would be the URL. All right, silence. Okay. So if there are any other questions that come to mind afterwards, you could always go to scomathon.com and get in contact with us, or with Dujon via Protect.org and myself via Cookdown. So thank you very much again, Dujon, for giving up your time today. Look forward to speaking to you again soon and seeing more about the Impact Creator.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Thank you very much for having me.
Not at all. And thank you very much. Speak to you all again soon. Thank you. Bye all.